Alrighty, so we'll go propless today. And let's start standing. Welcome. Prop free. Let's do a little rotation to start. So just nice, easy breath, just twisting from side to side. So you can let all of your joints move. So ankles, knees, hips, waist. Checking in with your breath. See if your neck moves. So turning your head from side to side. And notice when you turn your head, if you get just a little bit more access to rotation. Let's just do one more each way. Nice, then bring your feet a little bit closer. Let's do some shoulder rolls. So we'll just roll the shoulders up and back. And say a little more emphasis of that nice retraction through the upper spine. Since for most of us, right, we're gonna be a little bit forward posture. And then let's add your elbows. So now we're moving from the shoulders still. So shoulder blades are still moving, but your elbows are gonna also reach back. Nice little pec stretch. And then let's add the full arm. Hello, come on in. Nice, and so you'll notice too, right, if we don't move our shoulder blades, it's like a little restricted. We don't have as much space, but if you can find your shoulder blades coming together, oh, you get that nice little stretch through the front of the chest. And then let's reverse it. So now we'll go shoulders forward. So we'll just start with just the shoulders first. So the more our shoulder blades move, right, the better our neck usually feels. A little bit more flexibility and extension. Let's add the elbows. Nice, and then with this one too, notice that your fascia all the way from your waist and up gets to move. So if we're kind of keeping the sides really sort of stiff, you can think about letting all of this fascia move. You'll find you have like a little bit more space. We want that space between ribs and hips. And we'll add the full arm. And then palms reaching back is gonna give you just a little bit more space versus internal rotation. So you can kind of keep an eye on that too. And then we'll take this into a little side stretch. So I'm gonna bring my right foot across my left leg, and I can have a bit of space so I don't feel like I'm totally tight roping myself. And then same arm as your back leg, and we'll take a nice little side stretch. So left arm is reaching up and over, and left leg's crossed behind. And then let's keep this twist, and we'll do a little roll down in our twist. So you're gonna nod your chin, try to keep the pressure even through the whole surface area of the foot. You can squeeze your inner thighs together, find a little bit of glute here. You can have hands on the body or draping, and then relax the head at the bottom. Take a nice breath in, shift your weight forward a little bit more. So you've got your weight more in the balls of your feet, squeeze your inner thighs and push to roll back up. And let's do that side stretch again. Nice, then you can cross the other way. So now I'm gonna do my right leg behind, left leg forward. Again, I've got like a little bit of space. So the illusion is that I'm crossed tight, but I've got about a foot ahead. And then right arm, same as back leg, nice little stretch up and over. The same idea of I'm really stretching from my hip all the way up. So it's like as if you're gonna lift your shirt. And then you can drop that arm and we'll squeeze the inner thighs together. You're gonna do a little roll down, nodding your chin. Trying to rotate the crown of your head towards the ground. And if your legs are locked, see if you can shift your weight forward a little bit. Got really active legs here, squeezing the inner thighs, relaxing the head, push through the feet, scoop the abs, come back up. And then we'll take that same arm. Nice little side stretch here. And then you can release that arm down. We'll come to the back of the mat, so whichever way you're facing. And we're gonna bring the feet just in parallel. We're gonna roll down and then make our way out to hands and knees. If you wanna do a little mat fold or grab a kneeling pad, this is your moment. Do a little prop adjustment. We'll find hands and knees and we're just gonna take a couple cat-cows. So wrists underneath your shoulders, making sure if you like to smash the weight kind of in that heel of the hand, you get a little bit of energy through the finger pads. We're gonna scoop and press away. So it's my abs rotating my pelvis. Little shoulder blade retraction, and then extending the tailbone back and lifting the chest forward. Yeah, I'm just checking with your breath. So seeing if you can initiate by scooping the abs and pressing out of the arms, relaxing the head here. And then can you keep the support on? So the movement's happening in my hips, but my abs are gonna keep my organs from kind of falling out or overextending through my low back. And we'll just do one more round like that. And then we'll take this into a little side bend cat-cow. So my elbows will stay straight. My spine's neutral. I'm just gonna side bend. So left hip, left shoulder come together, lengthening that side, trying the other side here. You're gonna think of reaching the opposite tail away, getting a nice little stretch through the side body. And we'll try just one more each way, just checking in with that breath. And last one here. Nice, we're gonna do 3 sets of rotation. So I'm gonna start with my right hand down and I'm gonna push and sweep my left arm up and back. I'm gonna try to look at it. And then I'll replace left hand, right hand comes up and back. And we'll just do that 2 more times on each side. It's okay if the hips move a little bit. This one's tricky, rotation in our hands and knees position. This is a good prep for your side plank arm. So the more you can push out of that supporting limb versus kind of collapsing into your supporting shoulders, so you can really push away to create space for that twist. Get one last one here. And then come back to center. Let's do a little bird dog. So for bird dog, you can either keep the limbs on the ground, right? Just working on the supporting system. This is a lot of oblique work, or you can float up and hold for a beat. And then you'll come back in and try the other side. So just easy breath. We're just gonna hold for, I say a beat, you know, where it feels like, okay, I'm here, I could stay here. I'm deciding that I'm gonna come down. See if you can arrive at the same time. And a lot of the work we're gonna do today is kind of oblique focused. So oblique is anti-rotational. So this is a ton of oblique work. Of course, it's hip and shoulders too, right? You can feel that. My obliques are responsible for my torso staying square. Yeah, nice. Checking in with the back of the neck. Nice and long. Let's go for one more each way. So it's the same energy that you used in your cat-cow, pushing out of the arms and lifting the core. Last one here. Yeah, nice. You can cross your ankles. Let's come into a little half roll back. So we'll sit upright. And so for this one, right, I'm gonna sit up as much as I can. So if I find my feet are closer, that might push me back. So you can walk your feet out a little further, and you can always flex your feet too. We'll start with hands on the knees. So I'm registering this really nice tall position. And then I'm gonna roll back from my pelvis first. So it's my core that's gonna scoop to roll back. So my pelvis essentially flips. And I'm only gonna go to where my arms are lengthened. And then I'm gonna reverse this curl. So I'm gonna flex here first and then curl back up. Yeah, and I can kind of register my sits bones nice and tall, and then I'll do that again. I'm just gonna kind of peek around here. So rolling back and noticing if there's any shifting from right to left side in hips or in the ribs. And then curling up here, it's like my little mini crunch. We'll take a couple more like this. If you want, you can float the arms up. So the biggest piece here is it's really easy for our back to just kind of do the lift, and we kind of come up like straight backed. So you want to see if you can think of it more as like a crunch. So I'm going to curl, my ribs are going to curl. So I'm keeping that C curve, and then I'm going to come back up. Yeah, and you can take it a little bit lower. We'll say like base of the ribs is about as low as we'll go. So that pelvis flips, but you're not quite coming down into like your full roll up zone. Yeah, nice, and taking your arms with you. So just notice if those arms kind of hang out in space, bring them with you a little bit. Yeah, and exhaling to curl up. Do you feel some core work? Hopefully a little bit. Starting to say hello. Check in with the chin. And especially on the way back up, we'll find this maybe with our crunches later, where the chin will sort of kind of do a little bit of like a, reminds me of like a rooster. I don't know why. I know that sometimes that happens to me. So coming back into the ribs, bringing you back up. Okay, and the next one, we're just gonna roll back a little bit, so we won't go quite as far. So think of kind of just off the sits bones here. Just the right arm, so oblique. So I'm gonna plug my shoulder blade back and open the arm. Nothing else changes. I'm gonna keep my gaze forward, just the left arm. Yeah, and try a couple more like this. So the more you allow the shoulder blade to move, you'll find it's like way more obliques, right away. It's easy to kind of grip our obliques with our lats, or grip our shoulder blades a little bit and lock down in our lats. And then check in and notice if you're shifting. So another fun little sneaky trick, a strategy. Right, our body is really smart at figuring out how to make this easier. So we're gonna do a little body scan and notice, okay, is my weight shifting or my rib shifting? And just try one more each way and make sure again, neck's nice and easy. You can always curl up a little higher if it's getting a little spicy. Last one to your left. Yeah, nice, you can lengthen your legs all the way out and just reach for your feet. Take a nice little breath here. And you can use those arms to support yourself back up. Let's go into a little spine stretch forward. So for spine stretch forward, go for like a comfy distance. So maybe V, maybe a little wider. It's like what gets you on your sits bones best, kind of. And you can always bend the legs too. So for this one, we're gonna do a roll down, just like we did standing, but only the upper body. So you can keep your hands on your legs. I'm gonna nod my chin, pelvis stays upright, and I'm just gonna round down. So it's like my goal is to tap the top of my head to the ground, right? It's probably not gonna happen, but that would be kind of what I'm imagining. So I'm really trying to round my spine, round my spine, round my spine. And then when I can't go any further, I'm gonna lift my core and I can push through my arms to stack my spine back up. Right, so it's different than a hamstring stretch where I'm kind of hinging forward at the hips. It's keeping my pelvis really stable and just rolling down. And then taking a nice breath into the back, right? Really breathe into that upper back, stretching that fascia, and then scooping and pushing back down. Yeah, and this is a lot of work to sit upright, right? We're working our back and core. Easy breath in, and then exhale to stack it all the way up. So we're gonna combine this with a twist. So this is soft. So I'm gonna reach my arms out to the side. I'm gonna rotate so that I'm facing one of my legs, doesn't matter which one, because we'll do both. And then I'm gonna try to do that same tap of the top of my head towards my thigh as my arm reaches forward towards my foot. Take a nice breath in here, and then exhale, I can use my arms and my core reaching away to stack back up, and then I'm gonna twist to the other side. So easy breath in. I'm going to exhale, nodding the chin. If you could get the crown of your head to your thigh, really reach your arms apart. And then take a breath in. Can you pull your arms apart even more as you scoop your abs up? And it's kind of an awkward stretch, right? Everyone loves that. I know. I think it feels really good too. It can get a little bit nervy, so don't be surprised if you get a little bit of a nerve stretch here. Take a nice breath in, and then exhale, reach apart. So it's like the more you can spread your arms, you get a little bit more support, kind of the way we did when we pressed our arms down. Try to keep even through both sides of your pelvis. And let's just do one more each way. And you can really tuck the chin. And then easy breath, exhaling, driving down through your tailbone as you lift up nice and tall through your crown. Last one, leaving ourselves out here. And inhaling and exhaling to come all the way back up. Nice. Okay, you can come back to your half roll back position. We're going to do one more little oblique piece. This time we're going to do 11s, or 11s, L's. English, my first language. So we're going to roll back just off our sits bones. And then we're going to reach the arms forward. My palms are always going to face the front. I'm going to reach one arm overhead and one arm out. And then I'm going to come back to center and switch sides. So it's a little bit harder version, right? Compared to our first. Can I let my shoulder blades still move? So I'm opening up my chest. And you'll know kind of if the legs start to go wee, maybe keeping the range a little bit smaller. And we'll go for 4 more here. Exhaling. Lots of oblique work here to try to keep the ribs from shifting. Yeah, and as you get a little tired for the last 2, curl up a little higher in your upper abs. Yeah, nice. And then you can roll all the way down onto your back. Pull your feet in a little bit closer and reach your arms out to a T. Just let your knees fall from side to side for a moment here. And so notice what's leading. So maybe it's your hips that are leading here first. So I'm kind of letting my knees fall relatively at the same time. And then change that and see if you can lead with one leg first. So I'm going to let my leg fall out, and then my second leg follows. And now my top leg is going to reach as far as it can to the other side before the second leg chases it. So same movement in a lot of ways, right? We're just changing what the intention of the movement is. And that's one of the cool things about Pilates is you could do kind of the same shape, but you can change the intention and get a different bit of feedback, which is kind of cool. So once you're feeling even, you can pull your feet a little bit closer to your bum. We're gonna take just a couple shoulder bridge. So maybe leaving the arms out to the side with the palms up so that your shoulders can be nice and easy. You're gonna scoop your abs in and then press through the heels, floating the hips nice and high. Just notice if we get into kind of that yoga shoulder bridge. For Pilates, we're gonna keep the shoulder blades on the mat and the ribs contained. So it's more about hip extension and core work. And then you're gonna lower back down one vertebrae at a time. And just taking a couple with smooth breath here. Glutes and hammies are turning on. You might get a bit of a stretch through the front of the hips as you roll up and roll down. Sort of noticing if as you roll up or down, you get a kind of chunk of your spine that wants to move in one piece. Can you find a little bit more detail? So the longer you keep your glutes up, right, and kind of keep reaching the knees over the toes, you have a little bit more space and a little more time to work that articulation. And we'll try one more like this. We're gonna stay up at the top on the next one. Check in with your height here. Easy breath in, you're gonna stabilize through your left glute and hamstring and then float the right leg to tabletop. You can lower that right leg down, stabilize through your right leg and float your left leg. So in a lot of ways, this is like our bird dog again. So can I stabilize through my supporting hip and my obliques as I float? If this is too much, you could always just lift a heel, right? So you don't have to take it to that full tabletop position. And then just notice, like, our bodies, again, are pretty smart at strategizing. So like, what's the method? Are the ribs trying to pop? Because that's always a little bit easier. Are the hips wanting to shift? Let's go for one more each way. So you can even yourself out here. And then you can roll all the way back down one vertebrae at a time. So we're gonna keep the same leg theme going on. We're gonna come into imprint. So here's where my obliques are gonna draw my ribs and hips together. And I'm lengthening my low back on the mat as my pubic bone just gently rotates towards my chest, right? So this is your imprint position. Maybe keeping the arms out to the side with palms up. I'm gonna float one leg to tabletop. And I'm gonna float my second leg to tabletop. So here I just wanna check in and notice if my back popped, my ribs popped, right, or my abs popped, and I'm gonna try to work that imprint. I can always take it down a notch and just do a leg lift. We're gonna try your toe taps here. So as you exhale, one thigh reaches away and taps the ground. Nice little gentle tap, so we're not actually doing a weight transfer. So still oblique work, right? Can you stabilize through the supporting leg that's just hanging out in tabletop? And keep the ribs from shifting. If you want to make this a little more exciting, you could float the arms to the ceiling. You could start to tap the legs a little bit further away, right? So that idea of the further my lever from my center, the more core work. So you can always use that formula to make it a little harder or a little easier. And we'll go for 4 more like this. How's the breath? How's the neck tension? Got last 2. Last one, keeping your legs in tabletop, just let your legs fall over to the right and sweep your left arm in opposition here. Maybe turning your head if that feels okay. Take about 3 rounds of breath here and see if you can imagine you've got like a swimming inner tube around your waist. So you're gonna create all this space with your breath in between your ribs and your hips. You're welcome to play with the position of the arm. Right? You don't have to turn the head if it doesn't feel comfortable in the neck. We'll do a little more passive changeover. So you can sweep your left arm all the way overhead and then take your hands onto your legs, roll onto your back, and then switch sides. So you won't strain anything as we rotate into our second side. And then same idea. Can you find some really nice expansive breath? Kind of for yourself, just notice the difference. Is the tightness more in maybe the shoulder, the pec? Is it more in the low back? If you're not feeling tight at all, just check in with your breath. And then we'll sweep that arm all the way up and over again, and you can roll back onto your back here. We're gonna lower the legs. We're gonna come back into our imprint. So our flat back position. We'll bring the hands behind the head. We're gonna do a fun little kind of ab crunch series. So we're gonna nod the chin first and exhale to curl up. I'm gonna reach my arms forward on my inhale, and then I'm gonna pull myself up a little higher. Try to get the tips of my shoulder blades off the mat. Take a breath in and reach your arms back behind your head, and then roll back down nice and slow. You'll take advantage of that nice eccentric work. So we'll exhale to lift, inhale to grab, and exhale to pull. And then you can reach those arms back, try to keep your height, supporting the head. Can you go really slow on the way back down? So we'll just take a couple more like that. You can make this a little harder. Exhale to curl up, inhale and exhale to pull by going bigger with your arms, right? So there's that lever component if you want to make it a little bit more work in the obliques. And if you want a little more support, you can just sneak those arms right back behind your head. So I can kind of do like a little, what's that guy, Fonzie? Little hair gel application situation. You can exhale to curl up a little higher. Try to keep that height. We're gonna do one more like this. These are pretty tough. As you get tired, notice if your chin is doing a lot of the work. So we'll exhale, curl up, inhale. So it's my upper abs. Now can I keep my upper abs working? Oh, so much work. Yeah, nice. And then you can roll it back down. Let's lengthen the arms and the legs away. Take a nice little stretch. Then we're gonna roll onto our right side. We'll do a little side glute work here. So we'll start, bottom leg's gonna be active. So you've got your quad engaged, foot's flexed, whatever's most comfortable for your neck. So you could have your arm long or your arm bent. And then my top leg is gonna be bent forward. My arm is bent. I'm gonna reach my top leg and my top arm away from each other. So I'm getting this nice little stretch. Yeah, everything comes in and everything reaches out. And as I'm doing this, again, we're coming back to this theme, can I keep my torso from also kind of jostling? So trunk is really stable. The more I can activate through my bottom legs, I'm getting my inner thigh and my outer hip of my bottom leg going. I should have a little bit more support there. Bottom side obliques are lifted. This one should feel kind of nice. Secretly, it's also glute work. So that's cool. Okay, one more like this. As you can bring your arm down or maybe bring your arm to your hip, you're gonna sweep that top leg back slightly so it's a little bit behind you. We're gonna make some little circles. And you can think about the size of like grapefruit to a basketball. And we're gonna try to keep the circle slightly behind us. So we're biasing it to a little bit more glute work. And just noticing if the circle starts to go into the knee, can you keep the circle at the hip joint? So it's the thigh in the hip socket, just stir in that circle. And then let's reverse it. And again, kind of coming back to trunk. So bottom obliques are lifted, bottom legs active. Are we starting to feel some hip? A little bit, okay. Is it just me? Try for 3, 2, 1. Ah, nice, take a little rest here for a moment. We're gonna switch through the center. So we'll do like a little mini extension, intermission, and then we'll go to the other side. So for our first extension, let's go hands about rib distance. You're gonna press down through the tops of your feet. So we do want our glutes and hammies on to support our extension. And then I'm just gonna roll my shoulders up and back. So plugging those retractors we woke up standing. And then I'm just gonna lengthen my chest forward. My floating ribs are still resting on the mat, and then I lengthen and lower back down. And we'll take a couple more like that. I love inhaling when I'm coming into extension. If inhaling feels really weird to you, try exhaling. If you want to make this harder, you can simply float up and then take away the hands and lower back down. That's going to increase the weight a little bit in the upper back, so you have to work a little bit more. You can also do this without hands down. The most important piece of extension is that we're not shortening the back. So if you think about your spine, it's going to keep the same length. So a good kind of giveaway, you'll feel your low back kind of working a lot if your low back is overworking. So it's, your body's telling you something. So it's always a good thing to listen to. And then maybe take off some load. So but bring the hands back down. But ideally, you won't feel that the weight shifts into the low back, but that it stays distributed throughout the body. So the more you can press down through the tops of your feet, your glutes and hamstrings, your hips can be really active. But kind of feels like as you lift, all that weight comes to the low back. Then just support yourself a little bit more by putting the arms back down, because we want to be really gentle with our extension. Yeah, now that you've done 5,000, you can press back and take a child's pose. And knees wide or knees together. Knees together can be a little bit nicer for low back. Knees wide can be really nice if you want to open up your hips. And keep this one active for about 3 breaths. See if you can really push with your arms and scoop your low core away from your thighs. So you're really thinking of pulling the low belly in. And then we're gonna slide back down to our second side for side leg series. I'm just gonna do a little switch around so I can watch everyone. And we'll start with that same little reach back and front. So your bottom leg is active. You're gonna flex that foot, get that inner thigh on. Top leg's bent, arms bent, and then we're gonna sweep the arm and leg in opposition. Yeah, and so it's kind of like the weight of the arm reaching forward can help sort of offset as a lever. So it should take some of the work out of the hip a little bit. And definitely bottom oblique is on, right core is trained to make sure that we're not rolling the hips front to back. So here's our nice easy hip flexion, right there's your hip crease, and then you're pushing with your glute, reaching through the heel to get bum on. And just smooth breath for this one, whatever's most comfortable for the neck. So feel free to adjust from side to side. We'll take a couple more like this. Okay, and the next one, you can bring your arm down for a little more support, or maybe arm to the hip. Sweep that top leg back behind you a little bit. So it's kind of reaching towards that back diagonal of your yoga mat. And then you're gonna make some circles here. And again, like size of grapefruit, size of basketball. Think about your thigh bone sitting in that hip socket. So it's stirring from the hip socket versus, even though we see the foot moving, versus the lower leg getting a little bit involved. And what will help with this too is the more we reach away and find strength in our length, kind of like expansion, we'll have a little bit more stability. Let's reverse this, go the other way, which is a little counterintuitive, I think, sometimes. But the kind of more width and length we can find, the more stable we'll be. And hopefully we're starting to feel some work. Second side usually gets a little more tired. That bottom side already had to work. And then take a little rest. Nice. We'll flip onto our fronts again. We'll do another little extension round. So for this one, we'll do our Superman. You have 3 arm options. You can do arms by your sides. So arms by your side is going to be kind of the easiest version. I'm floating my legs up. I've still got glutes, hamstrings. I'm setting my shoulder blades, and it's a little baby hover. Right, again, it's like less of a back bend. So I'm trying to find length from the top of my head through my ankles. Arm number 2 is out to the side. So I've got these little cactus arms. It's a little bit more load in my upper back. So we'll call this like level 2. And then level 3 is my arms forward. My head will stay more with our eyes down if I'm reaching my arms forward, so the back of my neck stays long. So it's like ears between biceps. So you can take any of those 3. You can mix it up too. Let's go for like 6 to 8 of these. Again, just to float up for a moment to engage the whole posterior chain and lower back down. So if you imagine the back side of your body is one color and the front side of your body is a different color, it's like, can you turn the color of the whole back side of your body on? So you're just activating everything in the posterior chain for a moment. Before you take your last like 1 or 2, check in and notice how much the tops of the shoulders are working and see if you can connect in with those retractors again. Obviously, you're having your arms elevated overhead, so you will get a little bit of the top of the shoulder in, but just making sure that they've got that support. And then when you're ready, you can push back and take a child's pose again. We'll add a little side bend to this next one. Nice work, you guys. Yeah, that's your anti-sitting driving exercise. So for this one, you can reach your arms over to the left and you'll let your hip fall out to the right. So you can still have knees together and knees wide, whatever's most comfortable. But we're going for a really big side stretch through that whole entire right side. If your head doesn't touch the ground, you can always bring your hand under your forehead or maybe make like a little fist. And that's a nice way to get, okay, my head can still relax even if I can't quite touch the ground. And sweep the arms to the other side here. And then let those hips fall out to the other side. So you're going for a really big stretch through that whole side of the body. And come to center for one last breath here. And then you can start to walk your hands back. We're gonna come back to kneeling. We're gonna combine our bird dog with our cat-cow. So for a little excitement, come back to your hands and knees. So I'm gonna go into my bird dog, right? I know my bird dog. And then I'm gonna push out of my supporting arm and hip to curl and scoop and try to touch my elbow, my knee, and my nose all together at one. And then extend back out without kind of sinking, right? So whenever we're doing extension, we just really wanna be careful that it's supported extension. And you're gonna try the same side for 5 times, right? You could break this down. So you could put your supporting hand down and just work the hip. As you're doing this, supporting hip is doing a lot of work, right? You can really feel that. If that hip falls out to the side, we lose a little bit of space. So the more I can push my supporting hip up and to center, I can create a little bit more height, so a little more opportunity to pull that leg in. Yeah. And when you finish your 5, you can come back down to center. Take like one round of bird dog or cat-cow just to kind of get a little wiggle out. Can make it a little bit improvisational. And then we'll go to the other side. So extending without sinking into the joints. So we're really pushing out of the arm and the supporting hip. And then curling, pressing in. Can you create space? Deep hip, nose, elbow, and knee all matching. Yeah, nice, you guys. Tons of stabilizing work here. So you've got 5 on this side. And remember that your neck is part of your spine. So you don't want to overextend, but we get to continue the line. So kind of looking out for just a little bit on that extension. When you finish your last one, we'll come back again to hands and knees. You can cross your ankles and come on to your back. So we'll go into kind of some deep hip business. So we're gonna start the legs forward and we're gonna do some bum walks. So these are really good for our deep psoas, kind of right at the attachment. So these are pretty silly, but they're really good for our psoas. So we're gonna lean to one cheek and then walk your hip back and then try the other side. And you're gonna go for like 6 on the way back. 6 is the magic number. And then when you've done your 6 going back, you get to go forward for 6. Yeah, and so this is cool because this actually strengthens our psoas kind of at the deep attachment point. We do a lot of like hip flexor stuff in the front. But we need this to lift our legs, right? Hip flexion. Hip flexors can be tight and they can still be weak, right? So we want strong, hopefully balanced hip flexors. And then you get to walk back again for 6. And if you're doing this at home, this is a fun one to do with pets. You can go forward for 6. And we're just gonna do one more full set of these. Do you guys feel the work?
Yeah.
It's like weirdly fatiguing.
It is.
Try another 6 back. So yeah, and you wanna kind of measure try to travel it, right? So really kind of using your mat as a good measure of like, okay, side to side, but I'm also going front to back. And we'll do one more front for 6. The costume could be an aspect, what you're wearing. And so when you finish your last 6 coming forward, give your legs a little wiggle here. We're gonna come back into that half roll back, but we're gonna do a leg lift. So I'll start with my hands behind my thighs. And I'm gonna roll back off my sits bones. So kind of the same position where we did all our arm work. So we're not super deep, but we're just off the sits bones, like your teaser kind of position. I'm gonna keep this position in my spine, and I can use my arms and my legs, and I'm gonna try to float my leg up. And then I'm gonna lower back down. And so as you're doing these and take your time, use your bicep as much as you need, is your spine changing? So is it kind of wanting to go wee? Maybe you just need to roll back a little more, that's okay. And as you're extending, notice, is it just my knee extending? Can it be my thigh, right? So we want the deep hip. So my thigh has to move versus knee extension. It's like a decent amount of work. Maybe you let go. Yeah, so it's like knee to chest in a sense. Yeah, and it might be kind of small. Right? Again, body is really good at strategizing. It'll find a lot of ways to do something else, which we appreciate. Try one more each way. Nice, then you can come all the way up, bring your hands back, and just take a little windshield wiper from side to side, so letting your knees fall. Use your arms to support, so you can give those guys a little break. You can do a little bit more deep hip here. So roll to the front here. So you can bring your left knee forward, right knee back. And then we're gonna turn so that our hands are over our left leg. So I'm kind of in this like mermaid position. Maybe no hands, but I would start with hands first. We're gonna try to lift just our back foot. So internal rotation, deep internal rotation. And I can have my hands if I need a little bit more support, or maybe I can do like my prayer emoji hands and I can just try to rotate that leg. So again, quite a bit of deep work to find that internal rotation. And ideally, right, if a picture perfect, I wouldn't have to shift my torso. You guys can see I'm having to shift my torso. And then pause here, can you float the whole leg up? So you might find you have to shift a little bit and then float it up, but maybe eventually no hands. And we'll just go for like 6 of these because these are pretty spicy too. So can you get really tall and float without shifting? And if everything starts cramping, it's usually our body going, I'm not sure how to lift this, so I'll just fire everything at once and see if this works. You can always shake it out. When you finish your 6, you can straighten that leg, turn it out here for a moment, take a nice little side stretch. So one leg's gonna be long, one leg's in, just stretching up and over. Yeah. Nice, and then we'll come back up, swing your legs around to the other way. So I've got my right leg forward, left leg back, and then I'm gonna shift so my body's over my right leg. And to start, just see if you can find internal rotation. And internal rotation is from my thigh, right? So my whole thigh is internally rotating. And you can always adjust your stance. So if the leg's really far behind, you might find it's like a little more restricted. So you can move that knee as you need. Maybe eventually, no hands. Kind of wild, right? How often do we do this movement? Yeah. But we want good hip circumduction. And it's good for our proprioception in our brains, right? Neuroplasticity, to be like, how do I make this part of my body move that I probably don't talk to very often? It's like, have you ever played like piano with your toes? And you're like, you have to look at them and you're like, these are out of control. I don't know how to talk to them. Sort of the same thing, except for a much bigger joint. Okay, now try floating this whole leg up. So again, you can use hands to assist a little. Maybe no hands. We'll go for 6 of these guys. And this one might be really interesting where you're like, whoa, there's a huge difference in strength from side to side maybe, or like coordination. Just like fun info to put in your toolkit. I've got about 3 more. And last one. You can lengthen that leg out. Nice work, you guys. And then take a nice little side stretch. And then we'll lengthen those legs all the way out. We're gonna do a couple full roll downs. So if you're working on your full roll up, start with your half roll back. This is a really good prep. So you can use my arms. I can sweep my arms overhead, and then I'm gonna use some momentum. I'm gonna try to grab the back of my thighs, and then I can pull and press, right? So that's kind of a good strategy for if you're working on your roll up. you might need your feet further away when you're rolling up. Right, so if my feet are too close, it might push me back a little bit. So if I have my feet a little further away, it can help, and I can use momentum. If roll-up's feeling pretty groovy, you can start to straighten the legs out more and more, right? So straighter legs is gonna be more challenging. I'm going for that same articulation through the pelvis. So here's your half roll back with straight legs. So you wanna see if you can hit this moment where your pelvis is totally flipped and work your lower. So again, another great way to build strength is eccentrically. So if you roll down really slowly, that's gonna help with your roll up. So you might have to use momentum this direction for a while, but the more you can kind of take your time, yeah, really nice. On the way down, you're building that strength in the opposite direction, which is pretty cool. And feel free to go for a stretch for the toes. We're gonna take 2 more like this, and we'll do some more fun ab work. And then on this next one, we'll stay all the way down for a little bit more core. So once you lengthen all the way down on your last one, bend your legs and we're gonna do a little reverse bird dog. So bird dog on your back. Come into your imprint position again. So that's that nice pubic bone rotated towards my chest, lengthening the low back. I'm floating one leg up. I'm floating my second leg up. You're gonna press your right hand into your right thigh and your left hand into your left thigh. We're gonna do a same side bird dog. So as I'm pressing in my left thigh and hand together, I'm gonna sweep my right leg and right arm apart. And then I'm gonna come back in, press the right side together. Now I can keep this a little smaller, so maybe it's just a toe tap, or maybe it's a full extension. But we'll alternate sides here. So this is oblique work again. So can I, as I'm kind of pressing one side and lengthening the opposite, can I keep my ribs from shifting, my pelvis from shifting, and my back from popping off the mat? Right, so adjust your height of arm and leg. Exhaling is probably gonna be your friend here. So you can really draw the core in. Hard to support the obliques and extension, right? So as you're reaching the limbs away, that's a lot of load on your abs on stretch. Let's just go for one more each way. And last one. Nice, you can give your legs a little hug here, take a couple circles in your sacrum. So we're gonna do this fun little oblique one that we did last week. So we're gonna start with the bicycle. So for a bicycle, you're welcome to keep your head down for the whole thing. If you wanna make it a little bit harder, you can stay in your ab prep. So we'll come back into imprint. We'll float our legs one at a time to tabletop, either curling up or keeping the head and shoulders down. We're gonna come into a slow bicycle. So I'm extending one leg long, inhaling and exhaling to switch. Right, and I can choose my height. Yeah, nice. Can I get my hips to activate even a little bit more? So we did quite a bit of hip work. Can I cue into glutes, hamstrings, outer hip, inner thighs to take some of the work out of my core? Yeah, 2 more like this. So we're gonna pause with our right leg in and our left leg out. I'm gonna lower my head and shoulders. So for a little more support, lower that left leg to the ground. So just your right leg's up. For a little more challenge, keep that left leg lifted. As you exhale, we're gonna take 6 of these. You're gonna curl and touch your left elbow to your right knee and then lower back down. So you get 6, exhaling to curl and twist. Can you keep your right shoulder and right elbow off the ground? You get 4. Nodding the chin, supporting the head for 3. Can you keep that torso nice and even when you lower down for 2? And here's your last one. Nice, and then you can lower that left leg, so either bending it or lengthening it all the way down. Clasp your hands behind your right thigh, flex your foot, and we'll take a couple of knee pumps here. So just gonna kick that heel to the ceiling, nice little hamstring, calf stretch, and bend. You're using your arms to brace your thigh still in space. So it doesn't really matter if the knee straightens all the way, pull that thigh as close to your torso as you can. So you're gonna get a really big active stretch here. And then on this last one, if you wanna point your toes or flex your feet or do some little circles. Kind of working through that ankle joint. And then you can carefully lower that leg. So we're gonna do the same thing. We have a second side to do, but this time we're gonna do scissors. So you can clasp your hands, clasp the opposite way of kind of what feels normal. You can keep your head down the whole time, or you can bring your legs or your head up. We're gonna bring your legs to tabletop. We're still in imprint. This time we're gonna kick our legs out into a scissor. So I'm scissoring my legs here. Right, head down or head up. Yeah, if you like the stretchy version, feel free to take the extra little stretch. You can pull the thigh in towards if that's calling to you for a little more challenge, just holding that upper body in your crunch. And exhaling as you switch, just check and notice if the neck and the chin starts to do your crunch. Come back to your upper abs, or maybe just set your head down. Yeah, let's go for 4 more here. And 3. Last 2. Last 1. You're gonna bend your left leg in, keep your right leg long, lower your head and shoulders. So right, your modified version, lowering that foot down, whereas you're gonna keep the leg still. Inhale here. As you exhale, you're gonna curl up, bring your right elbow to your left inner thigh, and then lower back down. And you get to do 5 more of those. Exhaling to curl and tap. As you curl and tap, can you keep that left side from just kind of resting on the ground? So you're gonna curl up and over. You get 3 more. Supporting the head for 2. Can you roll down really nice and even through both sides? You get last 1. And then you can bend that left or right leg down. Keep it bent or lengthen it. Clasp your hands behind your left leg the odd way again. And then pull that knee to your chest and take a couple knee pumps on this side. So you're just bracing that thigh still in space. The more you flex that foot and really reach with the heel, you should get a bigger stretch. And this is a great one if you get kind of sciatica stuff, if you have really tight calves. And then on this last one, if you want to pause and do like a little point and a flex or some circles, kind of working in that ankle mobility. And then you can gently bend that leg. We're gonna roll back onto our right side, some side glute round 2. Let's come all the way over. We're gonna do some little squeezes here. So you're gonna float that top leg up and down just a couple times and just finding your stability. So I've got shoulders, ribs, hips all in one line. I'm just noticing again, all right, the movement's coming from my hip joint, not my waist, right? So it's a little lower. So kind of finding that place where your hip creases in parallel. Kind of keep an eye on if the leg starts to rotate, our hip probably will fall back a little bit here. So now we're gonna add a bottom leg squeeze. So we're gonna float the top leg up, and then the bottom leg is gonna squeeze. I want you to think of your inner thighs coming together versus your feet. And then you're gonna lower both down at the same time. So it's a little float, right? You probably won't go as high. You can always pad the hip if you need a little bit more support under. And just noticing, can you keep that top side really long? So the squeeze is really happening from the inner thighs, keeping those hips nice and steady. Try 2 more like this. Nice, okay. So now we combine this into our deep hip flexor balance work. So this one we haven't done in a while, but it's exciting. So kind of two versions. You can use this hand to support, and you can start to bend the legs and then come up. So I've got like quite a bit of support into my teaser balance, right? Then I can come down. I've got this hand and keep the legs a little bent. I can use my arm to support and lengthen back out. So it's kind of like version 1. Version 2 is no hand. This hand does not assist. And I'm gonna keep my legs lengthened. So here's that little squeeze you just did. I'm gonna reach my legs so far away. I'm still using my support of my bottom arm. It can be a little bit in front of me if my shoulder's tight. And then I'm gonna rotate. I'm pressing down through this arm and I'm lifting up. And you can bend your legs at the top if you need, right? And then I'm gonna reach away. So I'm gonna rotate back to my hip. I've got this hand to support me, legs extending, 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 and then I come back down. So we're gonna try like 5 of these. They're pretty silly. If you're on the mat and you're really close to the edge, you might find that the mat gets to be a little bit annoying, so you can always scoot forward a little bit. This arm can be further forward. Don't forget to use it. So your shoulder is gonna support. So here's my float, inner thighs. I'm rotating onto my hips. Yeah, and whether you have bent legs or long legs, here's my teaser. To make this more challenging, can you just extend a little bit longer so that you're arriving at exactly the same time? So you just have a little bit more time floating. So this is deep hip, inner thighs, core. It's our favorite exercise, right? Try one more like this. And I'll show that supported version again. So you can always have this hand down. You're gonna kind of bend the legs and pike, and then you can drag this arm up to come up. Yeah, and then rotating back, you can bring this hand back down for a little more stability. Nice. Okay, you can roll all the way over to the other side. And we'll do round 2 of the squeezes. Everyone quit smiling during that exercise. The smiles left. So when you're ready, you're gonna start with bottom leg active for support, just keeping that stack. You're just gonna float that top leg up and down a couple times. Yeah, so outer hip, right? You can think about like where kind of a swimsuit would end. That's that crease at your hip joint that you're floating up and down. Just making sure that everything's staying stable. Once you're feeling pretty stable here, you can float that leg up. Your bottom inner thigh is gonna lift to meet, and then you'll lower both legs down. And we'll take that a couple times. So here we're kind of already feeding into, all right, my outer hip, my inner thighs. They're gonna take a ton of the load off of my arm for the side twist teaser situation. Let's go for like 3 more like this. Right, still ton of core. Yeah. Okay, so now we'll take our little twist version. So just notice where you are on the mat if you need to make an adjustment, right? So your most supported version is using that top arm to give you a little assist. My bottom arm is gonna help as well. So I can have my palm down or my hand in kind of a blade situation. If I need more support, I can bend the legs to lift and then come into my teaser, right? I can always do hands here for a moment. And then I'm gonna rotate back onto that hip. I can put my hands down, I'm gonna extend my legs out and lower back down. So for my fuller version, this hand is no longer playing. I'm taking that lift, so I'm reaching both legs away. I've already got outer hip and inner thigh on. I'm reaching away, reaching away, reaching away, and then this arm can drag to bring me again into my teaser. Legs can totally bend, arms, no arms. And then I'm gonna try to reach the legs away. I can touch down as soon as I need, and I'm gonna slide that hand to support. Yeah, nice. And then like my hardest version is, can I kind of float everything up and maybe let go as soon as possible? Can I rotate without touching? So can I find this hip rotation and then slide it all the way down? So you're just taking less support, right? And you've got 2 more on the side. No, they're great. This is good for we're building new neurons right now. This is the brain exercise. Yeah, nice, you guys. And then last one, we'll come all the way down. And then you can roll onto your back here. We'll take a little stretch so you can cross your right ankle over your left thigh. Reach your arms out to a T, and then we'll take a little side to side twist in your figure 4. So give that hip a little stretch. If you want more, you can float the legs to tabletop. So you have a little bit more resistance. So you're actively pressing that top thigh back as you're pulling with your bottom thigh. And if you're like, oh, wow, this twist feels really great, I want to stay here for a moment, feel free to stay in one side of the twist or the other for a couple of breaths. You're also welcome to just keep moving through it. And for the last breath or two, if you want to thread your hands behind your left thigh and take it a little bit more intensely, you can pull the legs in towards your chest. And we're going to take this into a slightly deeper twist. So you can cross your right leg all the way over your left leg and then let your legs fall to the left. And you'll sweep your right arm out in opposition. If this is too much in the low back, you can just uncross the legs and restack. And then again, can you come back to finding some space between the ribs and the hips? So just finding some breath. Twists are kind of notoriously challenging to breathe in. So if you can focus on a couple places that feel a little bit restricted, and imagine you're like filling up a balloon and exhaling, letting any unnecessary tension that's maybe holding you off the floor just release a little bit here. And then just gently bending those legs back here. We'll uncross and recross for the other side. So starting with maybe the arms out to a T, the foot on the ground, take your figure 4 from side to side. Starting maybe on the ground, maybe you want to float the legs to tabletop. Right, so you're actively earning this stretch since you're working through it. If it feels good to stay for a moment on one side or the other in that twist, feel free. And if you want to take a little bit more kind of supported version, you can thread the hands below the right thigh and pull that leg in. Here's a nice moment to maybe check in with like toes, ankles. Just noticing the differences from side to side. We'll take this into the twist as well. So you can cross your left thigh all the way over your right. So it's like you're sitting cross-legged in a chair. And then let your legs fall to the right and let your left arm swoop out to the side. Right, and you can always uncross and just have the legs stacked if SI isn't loving this. Notice the closer your thighs are to your chest, you're gonna be more in flexion. The further your legs are, maybe more extension. So you can also adjust with the height of those legs. And then just breathing for a couple breaths here. Kind of finding a point in your body that feels a little bit inaccessible with breath. And just focusing on that area. And as tension builds, can you use your exhale to just kind of get red. A sigh is a really great strategy. It's kind of our sympathetic nervous system, natural anxiety reliever. So feel free to take any open mouth sighs to kind of just calm down the nervous system. And then you can bend the legs and let the legs come back to center here. And maybe one last little windshield wiper, just thinking about how you want to exit. So if you want a little bit more energy, maybe you want to take some rock and rolls up and down, maybe rolling to the side for a little bit more support, or maybe one nice last roll up. Just kind of giving yourself a little intention for how you're going to exit the mat. Nice. Yeah. And I'll leave you guys there. Let me know if you have any questions or any requests. We love requests. Nice to see you guys again. Yeah. Thank you. Have a lovely rest of the day. Enjoy the heat wave. Round 2. Like, did you buy your air conditioning from last time? Good reason to come to class. The studio is air conditioned. Yes. Thank you.